I think the most ironic thing about Adesanya fans is that, like dogs, they are unbelievably loyal, which is a good thing. I'm not trying to call you dogs. I'm not trying to come at it in that Kobe Covington type of way. I'm saying it in a positive light. You're very loyal. And Adesanya's into it. It goes with the theme. But you got to understand, as an Adesanya fan, it's something that's, I'm not saying me, I'm saying to the person that's an Adesanya fan. As an Adesanya fan, you got to understand that it's a revolving door. You know, it's something that is constantly in motion, something that's constantly changing. It depends on how he feels. It depends on where he's at. It depends on the color of his shorts. And that thing that he uses to kind of like grow his audience and his fan base and try to make everybody love him is the same thing that ends up being his downfall. And that's kind of what happened at the pre-fight presser, I think it was. It's on his channel, and I'm not going to show any footage. Partly because I'm not going to edit, and the other reason is because this dude has made it very plain and simple that he's petty. I'm not going to be using any of his footage in case any of his goonies ever come across and are trying to throw copyrights at me. But in his second to the last video, not this one where he came out and was talking about losing the fight and stuff, it was the one before. It was the weigh-ins or the presser or something like that. He was talking and everybody, like in unison, like the whole building just started booing him. And you know, he was there and he's like, you know, this place is close enough to where I live and train and all that. They're probably gonna root for me. And everyone's just like, boo! And you could just see him kind of die inside. It seems like usually no matter who he's fighting, there's at least a core of people. Maybe there's a lot of boos and they're throughout the venue or whatever, but there's some people there's some 12-year-olds in the audience that are still rooting for Adesanya, and he'll feed off of that. And he's still able to do his thing and he could lock into that. But there was like no one in the building except Eugene that was rooting for him this time around. And when it was against Dricus, it was different. And I think Adesanya felt that he was going full steam and he had people on that narrative because look, first of all, Dricus is probably almost as annoying as Adesanya. He's not a very likable dude. So it was very easy for people to want to root. I think the fight came up and fools that hit Adesanya were like, yeah, Dricus. And then that fool started talking. They're like, oh, that fool's annoying too. Let's wait for Strickland. And then the whole Strickland thing happened. Everyone's heads exploded. And then he had that whole black and white narrative, which people love to get onto that train right there. When it was Dricus against Adesanya, when it was a white versus a black thing, everybody was coming out the woodwork. There was parades. Al Sharpton was placing bets. But when Adesanya lost that real, universal, age-old, tangible type of narrative that people could just kind of see from a distance and like hop on the train, when that was out of the equation, everything fell to pieces and he started acting up. He was trying to loke up on that little guy at the press conference. And then again, in that second to the last video, you could go watch it on his channel. There's a moment outside after the press conference where I can't remember, what's that little dude's name? That little light complected dude that's on Adesanya's team. He's real annoying and he has that weird little voice. You know, him and the other little dude were beefing. I can never remember his name. But he was talking to Adesanya outside when they were trying to leave the venue. And he was telling Adesanya, hey man, don't worry about me. Don't get all into my shenanigans. You can get knocked out. He actually told Adesanya that. He said, hey, don't get all distracted, man. He's gonna knock you out. He was saying like, Strickland's gonna knock you out if you don't got your head right. Look what happened. That fool almost got knocked out in the first round. Kai Kara France, that's his name. And then he brought in that Chinese dude. He brought in, like, if you can't see right, he was exploiting that dude. He's not his friend. That's not his homie. He wasn't honoring him. He was straight up taking advantage of him. How do we even know that fool was Chinese? He probably met him a couple hours before that down the street. Fool's probably Korean. And then on that same video, I'm sending fools to his channel, but I want you to see the truth. I don't care if I get that fool a couple views. I want you to see the facts. When in that same second to the last video of his, he's leaving the venue. He's getting onto his bus, and then he says something like, "Hey, for China!" And then he turns around, starts laughing, and one of his goonies right there starts laughing. Some girls, they're like, he's making a joke of the whole thing. He's exploiting China. It just shows you right there what I've been telling you. He's not loyal to these people or those people or that soil or that. It's just like whatever's convenient at the moment. And I forgot to put my phone on silent. So look, if you're an Adesanya fan, this is where it could start to kind of backfire on you a little bit right here. Your loyalty, a good thing, a positive beautiful thing right there. It can actually hurt you in the end, especially if you're a betting man. Adesanya took some time. He was thinking about it. He watched the fight, and you know what he said? His conclusion after watching the fight, he said, I'm quietly confident. And after watching it back, he said, you know, when I was in the moment, when I was thinking about it after, I was like, man, that was terrible. I had to work on this and that, and this went wrong. And he said, when I watched it back, I realized it wasn't that bad. This delusional type of mindset is what's gonna allow him to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And there's different people. There's people that say, well, he learned how to adjust. He learned how to adjust against Pereira, and that's why he did the rope-a-dope and he hit. And there's other people that say, that was like quick thinking in the moment and mixed with luck and mixed with timing and mixed with the fact that Pereira never defends himself or his head and he's just completely 100% offensive. I don't know. I'm not going to say one or the other right now. I'm just saying, if you're going to ride real hard all the way thinking that he's a mastermind genius and that he planned that from the get, that he planned it so far back that he even lost the first fight on purpose just to set up the... No one has ever set up a rope-a-dope that hardcore, that long game type of rope-a-dope where they actually lose their first 3 fights against him on purpose just to successfully execute the rope-a-dope. That's commitment. It's also delusional, but that's the kind of respect he has for his people, for his fans. He sees that it wasn't a flash knockout. It wasn't oh man, I made a miscalculation. I got caught in submission. I was gonna die if I didn't tap out. But no, it was being out class for every second of an entire fight with 5 championship rounds, and he's like, nah, I'm pretty confident it wasn't that bad. We all saw what happened. Even the people that are always like in the commentating booth that, you know, he could be getting his, you know, blood's coming out of his eyeballs and whatnot, and they're like, oh, look at that jab from Adesanya. Even those fools were finally saying what's up. He also mentioned that his coach, that Eugene, he said the same thing, which is weird that he would say the exact same thing. So I don't know if Adesanya was putting words in his mouth or what, but he said that his coach said the exact identical words. He said quietly confident, which is very interesting because I forgot who it was. It might have been that dude, that old dude that used to be Mike Tyson's coach until he pulled a knife on him or something. I always forget that dude's name. You guys know who I'm talking about. He's like the boxing dude that's always hanging out in the MMA circles now. He made a friend with somebody. I don't know. But I think it was him. Somebody was saying, hey, hey, no hate, no disrespect, but I think Adesanya needs to find a new camp. I think he needs to find a new coach because he's getting a little bit stale. People figured him out. Now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think it was that fool. I can't remember who it was. But they're saying, I think people figured him out. He's always doing the same thing. And then you have his coach saying, yeah, I'm quietly confident too. I think we could go back in there and just kind of like, yeah, just. But something I was surprised to hear Adesanya admit, and I can't believe it. I mean, he even had another chance to have his editor take this moment out or whatever. He actually said, I couldn't find my rhythm. I couldn't find my rhythm because he kept the pressure on. I was like, fool, you're a fighter. You're a champion. You don't know how to find what? You haven't seen Game of Death or what? Broken rhythm? If your rhythm's not working, if you can't get into your rhythm, break that rhythm, fool. That's actually the downfall so many times of different fighters. That rhythm, that dun, 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 dun. You can't fight like that. It's not a video game. And I think it was Charles Sonnen. I think it was Max Holloway that he was talking about, like the first time that he lost to Volkanovski. He was talking about he couldn't get in that rhythm, and he exposed him. He like executed him with that video. I don't know if he like secretly hates him or what, but the way that he exposed that was dirty. But he just made it plain and simple. He used the term, he's a rhythm fighter. And if he can't get in that rhythm, it's over. That's messed up because it's not even hard to identify in the first place, but especially if someone puts that term on it and you're like, rhythm fighter, and then you watch the fight, it's like, oh yeah, I could see it. And then it's just like when someone's bouncing a basketball. And like I used to love to steal. That was like one of my things when I was playing. I would steal like every possession. When you're seeing someone, all you gotta do is time it for a couple bounces and you're like, oh, I see what he's doing. And you stick your hand in there and then you got the ball. It's the same thing when you're looking at a rhythm fighter. You kind of see like a lot of these karate style, which I love to see. It's a beautiful thing. But a lot of these karate style, they came from like that point fighting. You know, the way that Adesanya fights, they get into a certain rhythm. And if you could just time that, and then this was his most recent video. He actually said the words, I couldn't adjust on the fly. Not only are you like however many times you won the championship and then you always add one more that doesn't count because it was the interim or whatever, but not only are you like a world-class fighter, you got this kind of good record, you got these championships, you got all these people putting you at the top of this and that list, and you call yourself the style bender. And then you're looking at a style like Sean Strickland. I mean, now after the fact, everyone's like, yeah, but before that, everyone was like making fun of that fool, real mechanical and whatnot. But you call yourself the freestyle bender and you couldn't adjust on the fly. You couldn't adjust on the fly against Sean Strickland. And again, I know now it's like, well, don't downplay Sean Strickland. We saw what he did. Yeah, but everybody was clowning on that fool before. They were also talking about in this most recent video, you know how we were talking before the fight about how, like, you know, it's interesting, like, we're gonna beat him. We're gonna beat Strickland, but you know, like, it's weird, bro. It's crazy, bro. Like, whoa, like in an alternate universe, like on another timeline. Like, think about it, bro. On another timeline, Sean Strickland wins this fight, bro. And then Adesanya was like, yeah, well, I guess this was his timeline, huh? You can't be thinking like that, fool. If you're going into the fight being like, you know what? Even if I win this fight, Sean Strickland's gonna win this fight too. Kumbaya. You can't be thinking like that because then it's already like your head's all messed up. Even if I win, I lose. And if I lose, I win. And if I win, he still wins. You're done. This video is like, this is me reaching out right here. That's what this whole video is about. I'm reaching out to those loyal to a fault fans of Adesanya, saying he's not gonna make any changes. That fool's delusional. He's quietly confident. He's gonna go back in and do the same type of stuff. He's gonna go back in with that same type of rhythm. He's already gonna be going in thinking whoever he's fighting, they already won and they already lost, and he won and he lost. This ain't the kind of guy you want to put your money on. This ain't the kind of guy you want to invest all your energy and all your comments into. The faithfulness and the loyalty of a dog is a beautiful thing, but I'm telling you, I'm just trying to give you the heads up. You don't want to go into a relationship with Adesanya where you're displaying any type of attributes of a dog whatsoever. If you know what I'm saying.